The brilliant Sam Armstrong is a commentator to join us in the studio as well. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
An awful lot to talk about. Yes. I don't even know where to start. Where do we start? But the question I was tweeting this out over the weekend, and it's going to put into the audience, and of course love your thoughts on just general reactions to what has happened over the weekend and where we go from the future. But I'm asking, first of all, is the world a more or less safe place after Donald Trump's devastating strikes on Iran's nuclear sites? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Do you think that the likes of Keir Starmer and David Lammy should actually say, yeah, it was legal, we support it, yeah, you can negotiate some things, but you can't negotiate other things, largely with insane religious extremists, which is what the Iranian regime is. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think the world is a safer place? Do you think the world is a less safe place now? Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. You can text the word talk and your message to 87222. You can get in touch with us on X at Talk TV. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text costs £1, standard network rate message. What's your answer to that question, Sam?
Categorically 100% safer today than we were a week ago. Those bombers were dropping our freedom, our security from 40,000 feet onto those facilities. Iran has been totally and categorically clear what it wants to obtain these weapons for, which is to attack us, to destroy us, to injure and hurt our allies in the region, and to do that with impunity that comes from that nuclear guarantee. And that is something that we could not countenance, could never countenance. When a regime like Iran tells you that you are the enemy, when it says repeatedly that it wants to destroy what it calls the little evil, which is its term for the UK, you listen to it. They've been clear, they hate us, and quite why our Prime Minister seems unable to say the same about them, I don't know.
And that is the most extraordinary thing, isn't it? I wrote a column for The Sun on Friday morning. So look, by this time you read this, it could well be, at war. The American president at that point said it would be within 2 weeks, because it was actually within 2 days by the time the actual airstrikes happened on those 3 nuclear sites. But I quoted Maya Angelou, who's a fantastic, great American poet, and she said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. I don't think the clues were that subtle from Iran. Very, very clear. And again, the fact that there are so many people, largely on the left, but also, by the way, some lunatics on the right, who all of whom are as insane and as useful idiots and frankly as immoral as each other. Basically, this idea that Israel's attack on Iran was unprovoked. What, apart from all the provocation? They justify somehow the October 7th massacre in Israel and the taking of hostages because the provocation from Israel over all those years in terms of taking over Palestinian territory, the occupation, even though it had ended in 2005, everything that happened on the West Bank justifies what happened on October the 7th. That justifies Hezbollah attacking the north of Israel. That's all justified. That was not an unprovoked attack. That was provoked. Israel's response, totally unacceptable, apparently, even though clearly a defensive war to take on extremists on their border, on both Hezbollah and Hamas. And then Iran, as you say, repeatedly, they funded the Hamas, they funded Hezbollah, they funded the Houthi rebels. They have attacked American air bases as well as Israeli civilians. It is simply a miracle of the Iron Dome that so many Israeli civilians have not died up to this point. Far too many in the last few days, in the last week certainly. And I just find it utterly impossible to believe that the people on both the left and the right who are saying this was an unprovoked attack by America to defend not just Israel, but to defend Western interests as well and our allies, that was unprovoked. They either been living, I don't know, inside the Fordo nuclear bunker under the mountain 300 metres under and unable to see any news for the last 20 years, or they're just immoral liars. Which do you think it is?
Well, never ever forget that literally the first ever act of the Iranian regime was to kidnap and kill Americans at their own embassy that were based in Tehran. And ever since, it has been the principal sponsor of terrorism throughout the entire region. Yeah. Let's be clear, fanatical Islam did not begin or end with the Iranian regime. It was around before, it will go on afterwards. Yeah. But Iran puts turbocharged charges on it everywhere that it finds us. And all of the regimes, all of the terrorist groups, all of the enemies that we have faced over there, and indeed over here on our streets, have found shelter, support, succour from that regime.
Yeah.
When we attack Iran, we are attacking a devout, avowed, committed enemy of ours. And we should thank President Trump, in my opinion. We should be sending him our thanks and our gratitude for doing the job for us. And I can only be embarrassed and ashamed that my country has, by virtue of the Prime Minister that we have and the legal advisors he has surrounded himself with, been so reduced on the global stage that we aren't even a factor anymore. Yeah. I'm embarrassed, I'm ashamed, I'm humiliated, and that's the damage that this man has done in a year.
I couldn't agree with you more, and it is extraordinary that Keir Starmer has done some, little interviews, made some statements, and he obviously thinks he can get away with just saying, and read out from Number 10 that yes, he's had a conversation with Donald Trump. Reiterates we need to de-escalate. All this talk. He was definitely not in the loop. Not involved and not in the loop. The fact that the Brits, were told clearly once the planes were in the air. And by the way, can we just talk briefly about the extraordinary missions? This was basically, was this or was this not the plot of Top Gun 2?
It was absolutely the plot.
Absolutely. They probably got the idea. With the B-2 stealth bombers, 14 bunker buster bombs are flown. The fact that there was this decoy flight to Guam, they're moving the flights to Guam. There may be action in the next 2 weeks. Meanwhile, a few hours later, off we go. They fly in the other direction. 36-hour round trip, 18 hours each in the air. It's an extraordinary mission. Now, whether or not it has completely destroyed Iran's nuclear facilities is now questionable, because there's lots of evidence that actually a lot of stuff was removed from these sites in advance of this. So, and the technology and the knowledge, the know-how is still there. So I don't think we have solved this problem forever. But it is extraordinary that we weren't involved, we couldn't be trusted. I think that is quite a statement about the state of this government. And no wonder, when David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, has been doing the media rounds this morning, and he refused to say if the US military action against Iran was the right thing to do. Very, very clear question he was asked. Was it the right thing to do? He said, I had said that we weren't involved in the military action. Not an answer to the question, asked it again. If it was the right thing to do, he said, what I've said is that ultimately this can only be dealt with in diplomacy. Go through various other questions, and then asked once again, did he believe the US strikes illegal or legal? Well, we weren't involved, said David Lammy. It is for the Americans to discuss those issues. And yet, as was pointed out by the interviewer, Britain gives judgment on many different things, like whether or not an airstrike on Ukraine was legal or not legal. Whether Hamas's attack on Israel was. We give our views for tuppence, but we don't know. The man who represents this country abroad, David Lammy, does not know whether those airstrikes were legal or illegal. But the only answer to that must be that he thinks they're illegal, or has been advised by Lord Homer, the Attorney General, who's wrong about everything, they're illegal, and they don't want to say so because they don't want to upset Trump. On whatever basis, I'm embarrassed.
It's pathetic. It's totally and utterly pathetic. Firstly, this illegal thing.
Yeah, it's irrelevant.
I'm sorry, but when it comes to matters of defending my country, a lawyer is the last person I bleeding well want to speak to, totally. Right? Deal with that afterwards. When it comes to whether or not Iran, this regime, should have a nuclear weapon, I don't care what the lawyers say. I want to deal with it. Secondly, this can only be resolved through diplomacy. What a load of total unmitigated balderdash.
20 years.
It is nonsense. The sum total we have got for 20 years of negotiation is Iran moving markedly closer to developing the bomb. This will not be solved by diplomacy. It will not. I want Iran to be bombed. I don't want it because I've got a bloodlust or because I'm particularly aggressive, or I am happy about the thought of American or indeed British pilots, as I wish there were involved, putting themselves in danger. I believe that because you can, as Israel and America are showing, bomb this nuclear program out of existence. It is totally foreseeable that we can remove it by military means. In my view, the military route is very, very, very much the right way to go about dealing with it.
It's the only way of dealing with lunatics. You can't negotiate with complete and utter lunatics who genuinely think that their mission in life is to not just kill all Jews, destroy and annihilate Israel, but then take on America and Britain. We're on the list, people. We can't go, don't look at us, don't involve us. We're very much already involved. We don't have a choice about it. What do you make of the battles within Labour then over this? And obviously Keir Starmer, not that he's corporately not wanting to offend, the president in America, but also trying to deal with things here. And we've got this view that Palestine Action is about to become a prescribed terror group, but not in time to stop the pro-Palestine Action protest at Westminster today. The Met Chief, Sir Mark Rowley, said he is shocked, but unable to act. This was, of course, the organisation which broke into RAF Bryce Norton, although not very different. I think I could break into RAF Bryce Norton and damage 2 military planes with red paint. What do you make of that protest being allowed to go ahead and the prescription?
Well, firstly, let's be clear, it's just yet more sign of how pathetic our country has been rendered in the last few years, that we can't stop this bunch of, unwashed loony
Well, they've been
activists.
Joined by the eco-activists as well. It's like Greta as well. Everyone, this is the latest bandwagon.
It's absolutely right. Getting our base, that we cannot prescribe people in time, and frankly that prescription or banning this group is our only response in the first place. Let me be very clear. We used to believe that an attack on British military assets was about the most serious thing in this country that you could do. Never forget, until 1998, burning down a ship on a Royal Navy base was still an act of treason. It was still a hangable offence. That was one of the last things for which we abolished the death penalty. It doesn't get more serious. These people are traitors to our country. If you attack a British military asset, you deserve to be hauled up before the Old Bailey by the end of that day and punished as severely as possible. We haven't identified who it was. We certainly haven't arrested them. There have been no charges brought. We haven't been able to ban the group. We've been dilly-dallying and talking for a week. And you asked, about the battle within Labour. Labour seems to be incapable of even saying the word Israel. It seems incapable of saying, we stand with America, our closest ally in the world, against Iran. Why? Yeah. Because Keir Starmer is, and I regret to say this, Keir Starmer is worried about the extensive problem the Labour Party now has with winning constituencies in certain inner cities because of the very, very large Muslim vote, some of which is regrettably harbouring extreme views on this topic.
Yeah, absolutely.